Hi everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining us. It's actually our first time to invite guest speakers to join our discussion. Usually we just talk in Discord. Usually it happens in a very informal way. So today we have honor to invite a lot of experts or someone, professionals to join us today.
Please lah.
So allow me to take some time to, introduce our guest speaker. So today, as you know, miloais is a very informal session, but yet we will try our best to, professionally conduct the session. But so today we're going to talk about COVID-19 online session and podcast. I believe that, all our guest speaker here, they host different kind of platform for online learnings. And first of all, we have Kawal from Kawarismi Architect. When I contact him, I was like, wow, this guy must be very busy. He's like an architect, a father, a husband, a lecturer, and he does YouTube, some video on YouTube, and also the podcast on Spotify. So, hi, welcome, Kawal.
Hello, Gary. How are you?
Great. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. And we have Haziq from Baca. So he's a architects, I don't know, practicing architecture assistant.
Don't need a label, it's okay.
Yeah, but okay, now the interesting is that I recently found out that he actually does some podcasts as well, but it's not really a podcast. It's much more like a, I don't know, it gives a certain vibes of ASMR kind of thing. So and then actually you guys can check it out. The podcast is called, I think it's called Podcast, okay? I can't differentiate between podcast and music. It sounds very calm, tranquil a little bit. And
Haziq, do you want to elaborate on that right now?
Oh, I didn't know Gary was gonna plug this in, but it's just like spoken word poetry basically.
Mm-hmm. You know he will do his mandatory stalking work every time before the discussion, right? Okay, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so the podcast is called Discomfort, and technically and practically it sounds quite comfortable. So hi, welcome Haziq. Nice to meet you here.
Thanks, Gary.
Next we have Sam from Note to Scale. He's a co-founder with Adra and also a researcher in R+. I would say a sub-branch research group from GDP Architects. And we are honored to have Sam as well. And before that, I have been spoken to him about different kind of projects. And the notable one I can remember is Jolo ships and also the banquet table to replace the Mexico border. And it's very fascinating. And he does some podcasts on Spotify as well. So hi, Sam. Nice to see you here.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's nice. And last but not least, Joey from Concrete Matter. So I believe that all the speakers here been to Concrete Matter. I would say Sam, Kawa, or even Haziq, they are all like alumni of Concrete Matter. They graduated from Concrete Matter University.
Well, it's not COVID matter. You almost say COVID, right?
Yeah, I would say COVID matter. But it does matter in a way that because it somehow unite us together, technically because of COVID, and then we does all the online sessions. So Concrete Matter has done like 2 or 3 seasons with I think about like 10 to 20 plus or above, with different kind of speaker and also talents, I would say. So, hi, welcome, Joey.
Hello, what's up, guys?
Even though I just met her yesterday.
Yeah, so bored of each other already.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so finally, we have Amos. He will join us. He will join me today to co-host the show. Technically, we just moderate the things lah. We will have a very informal session. We just basically just talk lah, okay? We will try to keep the time within 1.5 hours, okay? But feel free to type out the question if you have any. Just keep it casual and simple, okay? So first of all, maybe we can go through the preamble first.
Okay. All right, so let's begin. Okay. I think like right now we all know that with the COVID situation, online learning has become quite an integral part of our lives. You can say that it's kind of had a baptism of fire. And we all know that online learning has always been touted as the future of learning. Even during like the 90s, people already started talking about this kind of thing. But it hasn't really been adopted wide scale until today, when we have in a way kind of been forced to do that. And I suppose that we can see the effectiveness of it in many ways with the popping up of I wouldn't say that I'm not saying that what you guys are doing is explicitly related to what COVID has done, but more like it has shown it to have great potential. So before that, someone asked like, why do you even do online sharing in the first place, guys? Oh, and by the way, just so you know, Gary is also part of the panel. I don't think Gary has introduced Gary, so I suppose that's my job. So Gary is host of XYZ podcast, and of course miloais, which is and that is what you're listening on right now. Okay. So I think let's begin like with the man
host.
himself, Gary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary, what made you start this idea? If I'm not mistaken, it did not start with COVID. It was an idea that started quite some time ago.
I think it's about few weeks before COVID-19. It's already sort of a big news in China, but we still lengang here in UK and having fun. But personally, I like to share things. Before that, on my personal stories, I like to share like, oh, I read this book and then I would like to share this book. I went to this building, I would like to share this building. And podcast is in another way not introducing building or not introducing a book, which is actually dominated by Haziq. His job is introduce books but for me, I would say is introduce different kind of people and personality to celebrate the people It's like we've been talking about architecture, but why no one actually talk to architects, their personal stories, their journey. I believe R Plus kind of similar, but I believe R Plus and R Plus podcast and Kawas, they are much more on topic oriented. It's much more on let's say talk about collaborative space with Clarissa and talking about COVID-19, talking about the building industry, and for Kawas talks about personal projects.
Yes, I gotta admit that I should be listening to a lot more of the podcast, but I'm still quite familiar with their work as well. And then you can see that from first off that their work is a lot shorter than XYZ.
Yeah.
And it's as you say, it's a lot more topical. But how about Joey? This is slightly different. So Joey is as you said, the co-host of Concrete Matter. In case you guys don't know, Concrete Matter was and perhaps is online Zoom session connecting a wide. It started off quite small, became quite big towards the end of it. A wide audience with preeminent not just architects but just designers or people of note. People share stuff like their master's thesis or stuff for their research or whatever cool endeavor they've been working on. How about you, Joey?
All right, thank you, Amos. I think first of all, thank you for having me in this fun discussion. How do I start this online sharing thing? I believe I always repeat it in every episode. So basically, it's just started off small. I think it's really started off really for fun. And then I think as in contrast to podcasting, which you guys are doing very great into it, it's that my idea of this online sharing, not so much of myself. I mean, because I never do the sharing, but more like joining the dots between different people. So it just started off with just having fun, like really, because everyone got locked out at home. When you are physically and also like morally also disconnected with everyone, it's actually very disencouraging. So having this online podcast is more like just like a online gathering, and then it just slowly snowball, getting more and more formal and more fun. Yeah.
I see. All right. So it's basically like a social kind of thing at first.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Is that like the primary goal at first, and then the bonus is that you get to learn something at the end of it?
definitely learned something, out of this entire sharing thing, because what I realized that, in the beginning, it really starting like friend sharing, and then slowly we are getting more and more prolific speakers. And then one thing
Yeah.
that I noticed that as compared to the other talks that we have been to physically, the
Yeah.
speaker is always on a stage or maybe in the middle. They are centralized, right? So everyone's it's focusing on one person giving a one-way direction information. But then when you're
Yeah.
having a Zoom sharing session, the speaker somehow it's already inside, like together with the audience. So everyone's on the same level. So when we share things, you don't feel intimidated, you don't feel watched, and then you are not afraid to ask questions to the speaker, just like asking your friends question like that.
I see.
So
Okay.
that's fun.
I see. Yeah, I can definitely feel that kind of vibe. How about you, Kawa? It's like you started your podcast, I believe, maybe around 4 months ago, if I got my
Right.
timeline right.
Yep. So basically, I've been talking about this with Sam, to be honest, like 2 years ago, but never
Oh, okay.
have the time, and basically COVID has opened up a bit, help out a bit with that, with as Sam mentioned before we start, with the less and less opportunities out there, so there's a bit more time to do other things. But
Mhm.
the reason why I actually do it, because I want to capture the architectural realities of people actually practicing, or
I see.
graduated from architecture school or whatnot. I think
Mhm.
because there is a very profound narrative of idealistic view of what architectural excellence is, and the problem
Yeah.
is that that view is pretty narrow and did not consider the circumstances of individuals. So if you look at my podcast, there is only 10 episodes for now.
For now. For
We
now.
we we are what do you call it, personality focused. We actually don't have a top. We don't go by topic. We just go by the personality that we invited, because I think this is the narrative that I want to listen to, but never have the sort of a medium, because if I ask them directly in a phone call, unlikely all those information will be shared or crossover. So to me, this podcast is actually my personal medium. Actually, I want to know this thing, this thing, this thing, but I
Yeah.
put it in the format of sharing, even though I think not even more than 50 people listen to it, but never mind. It's a medium for me to get the answer that I really want to listen to, or some parts of their architectural journey, which is a mystery that I want to unravel. So usually the topic is not popular, like architectural business. How do you do accounting? And some of the things that the juiciest part is usually been not captured but been revealed after the recording. So that is like my sort of like my personal channel to these people that I invited as part of the guest in my podcast. Yeah.
I see. Okay. I mean, just like looking, because I listened to a few of them, and then like from my impression of your podcast, it seems like you don't really invite, how to say, um, architects per se, but more people who seem to be tangential to the architectural practice. Like for
I
example,
think this is the
Joey and
people. Yeah.
Pamela Tan, landscape architects. You even have
Yeah.
BIM specialists on board. So these are kind of people that you don't really see them to be, I would say, like the spotlight, but rather they are kind of in the periphery, but they're still doing very important work. And so I suppose that will be, that's where like the juicy part is.
Yeah, that's why I said there's a lot of narrative. There's a very limited what is defined as architectural excellence, and that narrative is not being broadened out. I mean, people have families, actual jobs, or sick parents and stuff like that. So there is an
Yeah.
architectural reality that we need to look at. That's why these people actually have this personal struggle. I'm not saying that they are not doing well. I'm saying that they have their own unique journey that we
Yep.
wish to share in the podcast. So that's why
I
this
see.
is other people you never will see in public talk or speaking engagement.
Yeah, they're not in the
they don't
spotlight,
do
right?
that
Yeah.
usually. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just bring it to another one. Which you said you were working with. I suppose that you were in conversation with Sam from Note to Scale, and Sam himself is also having a podcast of his own, R Plus. Now the unique part about this R Plus podcast is that it's sort of like a part of the research arm of GDP architects. So there's some sort of extra oomph behind it. What do you say, Sam?
I'm not sure about the oomph part, but thank you for the compliments. So I think similar to Kawa, when earlier on when COVID hit, as a research arm, our job in GDP was to actually convey information to architects. But then we realized that communication was harder during COVID lah. I mean, it's we wanted a medium that you can scale up, and podcast was the only medium we realized that you can scale up your information, and then you could just pass link and then people listen, right? So I think so it was easier to. It's good because it archives our information as well. So even if people doesn't listen, it's good as an archival type of medium. Yeah, so it's always there, it's always available, so we can disseminate information to more people.
I see, but what made you guys start it in the first place? Because like R
What made-
Plus, why start R Plus the podcast? Not because R Plus by itself has already existed for some time.
Understand. I mean, basically, communication barrier and how COVID has basically accelerated that fact that it's hard to meet other people, it's hard to disseminate information. And we, macam personally for me, I've always wanted to do a podcast, but same as Kawa, I think we've discussed it like quite some time ago that Kawa wanted to do a podcast like almost 2 years ago. I've been listening to Joe Rogan for quite some time, and I really wanted to do a podcast.
Like Joe Rogan. Yeah, Joe Rogan for the record is also like one of our case studies of precedents before we started like that.
He's OG.
Like
OG,
Gary,
OG.
how many times have I linked you a Joe Rogan podcast?
How much is his contract with Spotify?
100 million or something?
Ooh.
Something that we can aspire to. But
Looking forward.
Try hard, guys. Try hard.
Try hard. But I mean,
but Sam, as you were saying,
I mean, because of that in nature, I realized that a podcast is one of the best mediums to. If we're information oriented and we really want to share, podcast is actually one of the most better medium now. I think. Because it's available everywhere, and even though Malaysia hasn't picked it up, Malaysia will pick it up because globally the trend is already there. So we're catching up to that trend, I think, of people listening beyond just music lah. So people are listening to content. I mean, BFM started first, I think, in Malaysia in terms of producing content quite consistently.
I see. It's a more mainstream kind of thing, right? I would say. Yeah.
But
okay, so
sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, the point is just to make it more available, accessible.
I see.
Or else,
we'll be talking about that later on, like the change in perspectives that allows this sort of thing to proliferate. But I wanted to bring attention to our last one, not final guest tonight, for Haziq. Now, Haziq is all one now. Yes, he has a podcast, but his main stake is Baca. Now, Baca is a Discord-based online literature study group. Well, not really study group. It's a reading session, but it's very fun. And then he, of course, just like other platforms, he will also bring people on. But the style of the show is not the person, but rather the book. So, Haziq, care to explain why do you start it?
A lot of like what everyone has already said, I kind of agree with. Before I forget, I don't think the star of the show is actually the book or the text. It's actually the community.
The discussions.
And whoever comes up, that actually forms. I think that's what people come for. Because when I do ask like what kind of text you want to read and stuff, they don't really mind. I think that it's the discussions that come with it. But sorry, going back to like why it started, it was a lot of it's kind of like a snowball effect. I wouldn't say I orchestrated it at all. It was just like a bunch of random things that came together, and this thing was born. So
Okay.
for the longest time, like I was working a second job, so I didn't really have time to think about hobbies and stuff like that. And then COVID hits, and then you suddenly have a lot of time. And then online communities start popping up, and it was
Yep.
actually like Clarissa, I think, who's in this call. Um, she was running one with like her group of friends, and then she invited me and some others as well. And
I
I
see.
really liked it. And I mean, I had never been to a reading group before, and it was really nice. And I was like, let's bring this to more people, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's really how it started. And it kind of like what Kawa said, like bringing the content that you've always wanted but you couldn't find it, bringing it out to other people. So I've always wanted this. I've always wanted that community to kind of grow with, um, but I didn't know where to find it. And I think that's also why like these platforms are kind of growing as they are, because people want it, but so far maybe they don't know where to find it. That's it.
I see. Okay. I would say that I was there at the very beginning where it started. I always had a Nicholas.
I actually wouldn't. I mean, yeah, definitely. And I think you were part of it as well, definitely. I think I kind of struggle because now I've been put as like the face or like the co-founder of it. I don't know how comfortable I am with that. It was more that it started and then I
Yeah.
really liked it. I didn't want it to die.
Mm.
And so I took it on and I just made sure that it was alive. Because I do understand that like whoever was involved from the start, they get busy with other things.
Yeah.
And it was something that I wanted to put my energy and my time into.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So it was
That's something I
definitely
really quite
sponsored by.
appreciate about Bacha is that the barrier for entry is extremely low.
Yeah.
Because like, you don't
Yeah.
have to read the text beforehand. Just
Yeah.
show up, read together, and then just spout out whatever thoughts come to mind.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely one of the things, like I
Yeah.
said, like what I was looking for. There, this idea of time definitely plays into it. It's nice to be able to just show up
Mhm.
and like you feel like you are spending time in a good, productive, fun, happy way.
Mm.
But you don't have to
Yeah.
dedicate like so much of your other time. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so now that we've gotten like everyone's input about why you guys start the thing, can I ask like in general, what do you guys think are your target audience?
I
I
think,
would say
sorry,
because
I
like
just wanted,
surely yeah, go ahead, Gary.
yeah, I just wanted to say like what I think by general, I think we are all wondering or exploring in this part called architecture, but somehow this architecture thing is so huge that we hardly define. It will somehow venture to artists, beam model, beam expert,
Yeah.
furniture designer and things. I think generally we are focusing in this part, but I'm not sure is any of our guest speaker ever thought like their podcast can venture out to property business, sort of like a BFM thing, I'm not sure anyone of you actually thought of that.
I think that we can talk about future plans
Mm.
coming soon, like real quick. But just like real quickly, is there like a specific audience you guys are looking for? Okay, like first off, right now you're all from architecture background.
Mm.
So I suppose that that's one criteria ticked off. But is there like a more specific kind of thing, or perhaps a more broad kind of sense of audience you guys are looking for? How about this sort of you, Joey?
Oh my god, me. I mean, sorry, your question again, like what sort of
Yeah.
audience?
Yeah, what kind of like audience are you were you specifically targeting? Where you guys are?
No, I actually didn't put so much as in like, I mean, how do I put it? As in looking for a specific audience to target, but more on the topic. Because the idea at the end of the day is we are managed to talk about the topic, and then everyone from layman to year one students to practicing architect, designer, or even veteran or the retired designer, they can participate. So I don't think the audience is something you should focus on, but more like the knowledge at the end of the day, because knowledge is equal and it should be shared.
I see. Okay. How about Sam and Kara? Because I would say that from my impressions of your episodes, it seemed to be like a cut above. That there's a bit of prerequisite knowledge needed to fully understand your episodes. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I could share a bit. So basically, with R Plus's podcast, R Plus sessions, it's topical, meaning that some research is required before doing an episode, and we need to do some structural framework before for it to be discussed about. So there's some information needed. So the target audience would be, I think, anyone who's interested in the built environment, and that could be from various angles, because it depends on the topics. Some of you guys might not be interested in a certain topic, but some of you guys might be interested in another topic. But it's just related within the idea of the built environment. So we're not really targeting anyone per se, but anyone interested in the built environment.
I see. All right. How about you, Kawa? Would you say that's the same to you?
Yeah, I think there is some, knowledge, prerequisite knowledge needed, especially when we talk about a very specific topic, such as, business of architecture, and then some part of it is about Hazana, design residency. So you have to know a bit about what is going on. But our ideal audience is actually people that is working on architecture every day. I mean, we try to reflect on their stories. So hopefully they find, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. For example, a lot of these people actually have this day-to-day difficulty. It's not about just like a sharing, for example, it is fairly curated, for your best work out of whatever year you're working on it. And this is like a day-to-day problem, like client pay half of the invoice, client ask for discount, things like that. We try to, I know even in PAM, we don't talk too much about business. There's a lot of design aspect. I'm not saying my podcast is about business. It's just like a business of life lah. Like family separated because of border, because of COVID. My friend is still trying to get back to Malaysia, stuff like that. People that actually working on DBKL, working in DBKL in landscape department, that nobody like actually, that DBKL thing or institute doesn't have a face. So we are trying to bring a face to actually this humongous machine actually work on by people. So we try to hopefully in a way sympathize or appreciate their stories. So hopefully people that listen in will somehow find some relation to their own life.
I actually find it I was saying it's quite encouraging and comforting to hear the nitty-gritty details, the unflattering parts, and perhaps like the crap that people deal with every day being portrayed in your podcast. I think it's quite encouraging.
Amos, if you're allowed to add on a bit, because I think to answer your questions like information and audience, right? I feel like our podcast or online sharing, because they are highly individual. I like to quote Kawa said earlier, it's like a diary of ours, more like what we want to know, and then we create our own content. And most importantly, we create our own censorship somehow. So we determine what to talk, and then which is very different from like what is on the public platform. Would you say so? Then audience who are attracted to this kind of topic will come and listen to ours. So it's more like instead of an active way for us to target the audience, it's more like a passive way. The audience will find their likings. Like if I don't like about architectural business, then I just don't listen. But if I like about it, then they will stay as a loyal audience. It's more like that.
Yeah. I would add on to that. Like for Bacha, I started kind of summarizing it into these Instagram posts. And I did that really honestly, it was for myself because I wanted to archive it. There was a lot of it that I wanted. I have really bad memory, so I want to remember all these things. And I made it into Instagram posts. And I never like put hashtags. I never tagged people. I never followed anyone. But slowly people who are interested in it will like it, will post it, will repost it, and then they'll find it and they follow it. So until now, I don't think we target anyone. But
Mhm.
if I had my kind of way of things, the kind of people I would want to show up is actually for me personally like more non-architects, because I again, that's something for me that's missing, that from, and it's something that I want, but I just don't know how to get there yet. Like I would
Okay.
love for non-architects to join in the group and talk to us architects, um, and I think it's beneficial for both sides, but it's not happening yet.
What
I
about Sam
think-
though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure how to get there lah.
We will
Gary,
be there
you say.
soon.
Gary, you were saying?
No, I'm just curious, like Sam, you like, because working with R Plus is like is sort of bound with a company called GDP, right? I wonder like what kind of information or data or audience they are looking forward to specifically target to. Is there any, I mean, restriction wise later on we can talk about it.
Understand. Yeah, understand the predicament to it, because understandably as a company, but the good thing is that with R Plus it's quite independent in that it doesn't need to be the voice of GDP. It can be its own voice. So in that sense, it's not out to look for potential clients, but it's more to get other interested parties on board, such as local academicians or where it's really a networking session for R Plus.
Yeah.
In that manner, it's the tool is mainly to network with other parties besides architects.
Hi.
Hello.
I
Sorry,
want to join.
Hi.
that's real life. Yeah.
You know what would be
Oh,
interesting
okay.
to have a
Okay.
podcast with all the kids though.
I thought it
Yeah,
comes
very
up
good.
from
Okay.
no, I thought
That's
it
true.
comes up from the Halloween dolls or something.
Do you guys consider yourself influencers?
No, I don't.
I don't. I don't.
Okay.
But I think,
all right.
how about like,
Oh yeah, not yet.
I mean,
I would say
you
not
guys
yet.
don't consider. Yeah, I mean,
Gary,
you
you
guys
consider
don't
yourself an
consider
influencer?
yourself as. No, I don't, but I wish to, because at some point,
Wish to.
influencer can bring the information into a bigger crowd, don't you think? Because we
Yeah.
always wanted to advocate a certain culture,
I
podcast
agree, I
culture,
agree.
Yeah.
I agree with Gary. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
mean,
if you're in a position to become an influencer, become it, and then make the change you want to see.
yeah.
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 Mhm.
I mean, it depends on how big you want or how small you want, though.
Okay.
But I think,
I mean-
yeah, Haziq, sorry.
I would suppose that if we as influencers, like, you get to bring attention to stuff that are not celebrated, and then in the case of like what Kawa has done, I think that would be, as I said, it's really quite sympathetic to the working man architect. I would think that it would be a fantastic opportunity if you guys all end up as influencers.
Could I maybe add? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could I maybe add that I heard a discussion between Samuel Ross and David Ajay the other day, and he said that he sees himself as a thought leader, so he positions himself as a thought leader within the space. So I think that's what we should be aiming towards individually, to become a thought leader within our own spaces, so that we sort of get to bring different voices out into the architectural community, or the type of diversity of information we want to hear within those spaces. Yeah. So it's not really, it's just changing from influencer.
Okay, all right. So yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that
Sorry.
I generally agree, but just thinking of like Bacha specifically, I think it's a perhaps maybe irrelevant question, just because I think we're not kind of advocating an ideology or philosophy or anything. It's knowledge building, and it's like communal knowledge building. So we all know as much as each other, kind of thing. And so there's not really an influence. It's not a top down. It's extremely like equal, or at least
because
we try to
when
make
you
it.
mention about influence, I mean, influence in what sense? In knowledge? I mean, certainly our knowledge is not as great as those speakers who share with us, and influence in what sense?
Well, I suppose in directing attention to a specific topics that might not get the attention they deserve.
And another thing is because like something like baca, I'm not sure how it would work if you have more than 20 people, for example. Um, it works because it's intimate and people are comfortable with each other.
Okay.
And personally, I don't know how you create that once you have like 50, 100 people joining.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that there are ways that not talk about it, but we have to expedite. Move to the next topic. Which is like in regards to content. How do you guys find your people, or how do you guys determine what to talk about? Is it more of like depending on whether the speaker is available, or is it dependent on the current trends of the times? What do you guys think?
Maybe I can share a little bit because for me, I think a little bit similar. I hope, I hope kind of similar with Kawa and R Plus in a way that we are trying the things that topic much more relevant in time but at the same time, it doesn't want it to be so outdated in a way that, let's talk about 10 years ago kind of thing. But it can be a sweet throwback, but it's somehow the content that for XYZ, itself is much more on personality. It's like anyone, and I think, hey, are you free? Then let's go. It doesn't have a certain direction, I would say. I'm not sure about Kawa and R Plus in a way that when you're finding a person or architects or designers.
Yeah, well, how do you guys do it? Is it dependent on the current circumstances? That's news or developments that you believe that are quite important to be shared by via podcast?
For myself, I think the people that we choose actually are very personal. We know them in a this very personal level that we can ask this intimate question. So usually there is also an Achilles heel of the particular premise, because you have this limitation of people that I actually personally know. So, but in a way, the topic is going to be about things that they are working on usually. For example, like Sam, the first one, because I have to invite him for the first one due to the fact that we've been talking about this for years. And the main or key takeaway is actually, for example, Venice Biennale Malaysian Pavilion. It's not about design at all. The issue is not about who does what. It's about procurement. How do you get, actually, I always told my student architecture is about everything except architecture. It doesn't really matter what the door looks like, the wall, the columns, and the roof, if you don't get other things not sorted. For example, this particular ambitious young architects trying to bring this pavilion to Venice, but unfortunately, the circumstances of how, the financing is secured, the government sort of endorsement, you need a ministry to endorse them. So all this stuff actually bring light into the actual problem or issues of a particular topic, even though people might thought that, oh, Malaysia Pavilion, why is it not like this or not like that? It's because of the procurement. This is separate from Serena Hijaz or Hijaz Malaysia Pavilion for
Dubai
the Expo.
right?
Is separate, yeah. But there is also a range of, not issues, but stories behind why they managed to get the subsequent, two Expo in a row. There's a lot of things, of course, behind the scene that is not covered in the mainstream or, to the public knowledge. But maybe I would just talk about the first episode. That first episode is actually recorded 6 a.m. due to the fact that both of us have small children. So again, the realities came in. You can see before the kids wake up during a weekend, which Sam is not working, and I myself are quite flexible. So we just do it, after the Subuh prayer, and then we just get it done. So it's not only the content per se, but what happened, the circumstances, when it's been recorded, and in what manner it's been recorded. So all of that actually eventually, to myself at least, gives some level of weight, even though it might not be so apparent to the listeners, but it's fine. So I would say the topic is not dependent on the audience. It's fairly to whom that I able to reach and to whom are willing to talk. Actually, I have like a 20% rate often down. I've given the full set of the script and whatnot, and we have this 20% rejection rate, but it's fine. I think we understood, because some of the questions are highly personal, to the point where we talk about medical, medical
Okay, all right.
they had, stuff like that. Yeah.
True.
All right. Okay. Is there anyone else want to add in?
Maybe from from Bacha, I think a lot of it is also quite similar. It's actually like quite slice of life. It's like things I read or come across during the week or something, and I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting, but I don't quite understand it so much. Let's bring it to the community and let's think about it together. Or like someone will do the same thing. Someone will be like, oh, let's read this together. I don't like it. It's interesting, but I don't really get it. And because when you read a text, like everyone gets different things. No matter how well you read it, you're always gonna get your own kind of perspective of it. So to share multiple perspectives, it's like speed learning. It's like learning on drugs. It's amazing. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Sorry, maybe a quick one. I just wanted to ask, like, because we started off our so-called online platform with friends, right? Like Concrete Matter start with very intimate one. Kawa started with Sam, which is actually friend, and then we started later with Join is his student, Haziq with his own so-called mini community. So, but after that, what about like a few later speakers? Are they from the suggestions from somebody else?
Yeah.
For Concrete Matters, sorry, no, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so for Concrete Matters, I think like Gary said earlier,
Joey,
I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, so for like the first few session, it's really friends of friends. But then towards the last few session, like for example, Kawa or even Sam or even Haziq, I don't know them before Concrete Matters. So it was through this platform, suggestion by other friends. So I get to know them. So even towards the end, that we have a more critical discourse on small practice, and then we have Nazmi and Sai, and also on the architect's qualification, and we have Sufyan and also Taufik to come in. So it's really interesting through the content that you want to create, and then you get to know the speakers that you don't know before.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy how many new friends I've made this year who
I
haven't met.
True.
I haven't met at all.
Yeah, it feels like I have made more friends than before COVID though.
Okay. But it seems to me though that I suppose that might be the case for some people, but quite a lot of us seem to have to invite people, like how to say, the choice of content, choice of participants seem to be quite dependent on the circumstances that are around us at the time. Like for example, as Sam said with Cora said with Sam recording at 6 o'clock in the morning with when the children are asleep, or seeing that how in the terms of XYZ, see whoever is available at the time, and then just getting him online, the kind of thing. So it seems to be very, if I can get it, I'll just get it done. You know what I mean? Would you guys agree that that's the case? Go ahead.
Sorry. I think it is partly, I mean, for us, for our sessions, because it's a company thing, it's a partly structured thing, and then of course you always have to do with whatever is given at the moment. So you just think of any opportunity that opens up, and we'll take it lah. So I'm trying to answer one of the questions before. I think because we realized that R Plus was in a fortunate position to be under GDP, we could leverage on GDP's name. So somehow we wanted to take on people that we wanted to highlight that wouldn't normally be highlighted if you are on a normal corporate architecture type circle lah. So so we're trying to mix it up by calling on people like Clarissa, and then from the guys over at non-school. So and then we're trying to push them out as well into the larger sphere of the architectural corporate circle. But and then we're also trying to pull in more more other heavyweights, such as Hijaz, Kasturi, and then Kami American after this.
Yeah.
So
Oh wow. Okay.
so we're trying to bridge that because we realize that we have an obligation to be that platform. I mean,
Right.
especially on that level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't know if that answers your question. Sorry, but
Oh no, definitely. I think it works quite well because I was about to say that. Would you guys have more? Wish you guys to have more control over the people that you get to invite, or rather get to have a more granular, you know,
yeah,
how to say, as I say, control over the topics that tend to what? If I mean, to phrase it in other words, is there a particular kind of topic that you guys would like to make but haven't had the opportunity to?
There's a lot of topics actually. It's just whether we find someone suitable to give an insight that we want. I think there's a lot of topics out there, but there needs to be a specific type of person that gives an insight that is unique to that topic.
I see. Okay,
Or else,
all right.
yeah, or else it'll be. We want it to be very localized. That's what our plus sessions wanted to be. So in order for it to be localized, it has to be a certain type of person with a certain type of background that is able to bridge both global knowledge and also a localized understanding of these fields of knowledge, and then make that accessible to the public. Yeah.
I suppose that's the tricky part, because is that short in supply? I would expect that it would be short in supply.
No, I think there's a lot of people. Definitely a lot.
I see. But it's just a matter of trying to find them and contact them.
Correct. It's connecting. Yes, correct.
I see. Okay. Well, what do you guys think? Like, Joey, do you say a topic that you guys really wanted to talk about, but haven't managed to find the right person for?
Yeah, I think certainly, because I mean, as compared to like Sam, who, I mean, because R Plus is under GDP, I mean, somehow they have more reputation to actually invite more prolific speakers. But concrete matters, I mean, in the past, I do try to invite some big names, but I think I get more than 20% of rejection as compared to Kawa. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, always looking for, I mean, because our platforms are growing slowly, but it's growing. So hopefully one day we get to invite big names like Andrea Martin or Vertronia, to talk about topics that we want to talk about. But I actually want to throw a question to, I think, Sam, though, as in when you are given, for example, a proper platform like R+, so what you preach is actually very important, right? As in, like, not what the information that you share on that kind of platform. So at what extent would you think that it will become misleading, or because your audience is listening to you, then yeah, so I'm trying to, I don't know how to formulate.
Yes. No, I know because we faced it before. So people realize, right, there's two different voices. There's GDP as a voice, and then there's R+. And the things that R+ doesn't translate to GDP, because
I see,
because
separate entity.
Yes, you see that it's like you see like it's two different types of people talking. I mean, you're preaching something else, but and then you're doing something else. Like it's not related to whatever that you're sharing, right? So
I'm not too sure if that the same happens to OMA and AMO though.
Yeah.
Branch.
But I think AMO and OMA is very connected in terms of what they preach and what they do. I think somehow you can see the translation and transmission of it. But in terms of GDP, of course, there's that that gap we would say. Yeah.
But whatever
I suppose
you
that will
share,
be. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm trying to say that, but whatever you need to share on R+ platform, somehow you need to get the concurrence from the mother company as well, right?
Yes. I mean, we have to be careful about some issues, right? Also, correct.
Yeah.
That's the tricky part.
Yeah, as compared to Gary and Kawa's podcast, which is highly individualistic, that they have determined their own censorship. Am I right?
Sorry, I just wanted to add, like, because XYZ is nothing, it's no one. It doesn't link to a proper legal
Actually,
entity.
that's the best. Actually, I feel like that's the best, because
yeah, but I'm curious about Kawa, because Kawa himself also own a practice, right?
Yeah. Yeah, correct.
so there is some level of liability. Fortunately, not fortunately, consciously, the podcast has been formulated as such that I ask the question and never have to answer one. So in a way, you ensure you cover your backside, for the lack of a better term, because you have this liability against Company Act. Of course, I have three registered companies under the Tax Act, 2 registered practice, and also Architect Act of my own personal professional registration. So there's a lot of liability, of sort of like, in a way, baggage. But in a way, since we are not venturing too much into how things actually is, or institutional way of working, we did not infringe, I would say, to that threshold. But I would really love to know, some of other things that challenge us. For example, how do government give procurement of work? For example, do quantity or size matters, or things like, can in the Companies Act, for example, is already allow for a single directorship but the board of architect give a minimum 2 directors for an architecture practice. So there is like a sort of Architect Act versus Company Act kind of thing going on. But again, to get answers for all this is not easy, because we can only get individual or personal interpretation of things, and we never have a official or whatnot. But we never intend to invite as such, because we want to see what is the sentiment on the ground rather than the official lawyered answer per se. So in a way, our challenge is that actually in the beginning I told you already that we have this problem of the people that we know are very limited, and I think the benefit will just be all those little things, because from each guest that we invited, I actually learned something personally. Because to be honest, I think I've done too much talking, and we need to listen a bit more in a way. So to force myself, I created this monster that I have to keep on feeding every month. So hopefully it turns out the best at the end.
The best dragon.
But I'm just curious, how about Haziq? Because in Haziq, it happens in a very small but intimate and also rather personal, in a way that it's quite open to talk about religion, talking about not very much on sensitive religion things, but much more on let's say political issues, but open it up in a much more democratic way to talk about it.
Yeah, actually, adding on to that, because bacha sessions aren't recorded, as far as we know, they're not recorded.
Maybe he did.
I don't know.
No, they're not.
Yeah. So they're not, right? I mean, some of us could be, just saying, but
if we
probably
do,
not.
we tell them, like we tell whoever is there that we.
Okay, all right, but the fact that it's not recorded and it's not posted online, does that give you more leeway as to the topics that might be considered taboo?
Yeah, and I think Discord as a platform really adds to that. And the thing is, it wasn't a super conscious choice to use Discord. It was more of an experiment, and also getting bored of Facebook and Instagram not kind of living up to it. So it's like, oh, okay, might as well try something new in Discord. And Discord kind of works. There's just kind of, I don't know really why, but it kind of just works where people feel comfortable to share and kind of be themselves and all that. And I think, talking about like sensitive issues or all that, I think that is also part of what bacha is. I mean, to read is to learn how to discourse, to learn about critical thinking, and to not be afraid because you need to practice to do these things. And where do you get the chance to practice without the fear of being reprimanded for it? So that's what the space is for, lah. Obviously, we're not, opening the space for like abuse or hatred or anything like that.
Of course,
yeah.
Just to add on to Haziq, I think just on the quote, I think if a conversation is hard, then it's probably the one that's worth having.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know which quote is this from, but
Joey Lee.
no, it's from the internet. No, I think it makes sense, and also sometimes I'm not sure it is a challenge for the rest. I mean, I think so. Sometimes we feel what we shared, or actually what we have curated, even either podcast or online bacha or reading club, somehow we have a sense of responsibility to our audience as well.
Yeah.
Because what you shared, as you said earlier, if you try to frame ourselves as a thought leader, what you're sharing it out could be, I don't know, conducting whether it's a correct information or bad information.
Yeah.
If let's say the audience themselves, they don't filter it out, and then they have to understand at the end of the day. After we will call a riot.
So there is a 0.001% of brainwash kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's
No,
two
I-
possibilities. And then, like, for example, concrete matters at one time, we have to deal with like 60 people or like 40 people. What you say has to be very careful, because what you say is immediately given out to 60 people at the same time. And then they have 60 response. And then you have to take care of every one of the audience.
Actually, I was going to ask about, leading on to that question, right? About, I wouldn't say censorship, but rather responsibility towards your, I suppose, your audience or towards your shareholders in the case of R+. Is there some kind of challenge you guys have to do? Like, what do you guys do to make sure that whatever you're portraying fits the bill, so to speak?
Understand. So that's a great question. What we portray fits the bill. Understand. So we try to make the topics quite broad in a way that it covers a certain aspect of design or research, but it's not directed towards covering certain clients or local names in the industry. So if you want to say that, we have to go around and try to kias a bit about what it is we're trying to say, if it's a problem, because we can't cover things which we feel we don't have the authority to, or else we could be seen as someone who is the voice of GDP. So there's always that thing we have to try and mitigate lah. Like we can't directly scrutinize like the state of the industry per se and say that the government has done a bad job or whatever, because you're the face of GDP as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if that answers it. So
as you said just now, that oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna add on to that I think that's why it's so nice to have all of us here, because we're all kind of aiming at different things. So where Sam can't cover under R+, they can come to us at Bacha and let's talk about it, right?
True.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
But,
it's like passing. Would you say it's passing the buck around? If there's like some topic that you don't want to say, or something that you you really want to express, but you can't due to your responsibilities, just use someone else's platform.
Because I like Kawa's platform because of that. Because you can say the nitty-gritty things and no one cares jack shit. Like you just say whatever on his platform, and then it's the truth. That's the ground truth.
Kawa, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I think what we want to do is to ensure that the problem with architects is that architects don't like to keep their position public. I mean, have you seen any professional architect going around, I say this, I like that, I don't like this, it's very I would not say rare, but it's almost non-existent. You will not see a professional architect go around saying publicize his or her position, because the problem is the problem is we might have to be flexible on those positions as we go through in the future. So that's why I think what we're trying to do is just try to boils down the problem, as I mentioned early on. It's all about endorsement and financial problem. Then only we can resolve the design. Because if you look at how Malaysia actually sent pavilion prior to this particular year, actually we have this what they call it, tong-tong, tong-tong, like divide the cost into the participant, and whoever can partake that portion can go. So that actually resulted to not so desirable outcome. So I'm not saying that the design is bad. I'm just saying that the design is actually an outcome of that particular mechanism. So we
Mm.
need
I see.
to
Okay,
sort
yeah.
of fix that mechanism of how we send pavilion to Venice or Expo. Then only we can fix the design. Because
Mm.
you know there will be no way. That's why I think Sam, out of being funny, try to do impose Jolo's boat on top of it, which is maybe our sentiment at particular time of our frustration about the boat
Mm.
that eventually got
Uh-huh.
sold. So I'm saying that it's very rare for an architect actually to for example company, let's say ABC Architects in Berhad, say, oh, we put Jolo's boat. And of course, all these BN warlords, which I'm not saying that they are controlling everything, but they have this a mass
Yeah.
people among these departments that will be, the least is severe ties, the worst is cancellation of projects, which is,
Yeah.
it's very, it
Yeah.
could be gone sideways very quickly. So that's why you don't see that. So to have a podcast is actually doing more harm than good, to be honest. If I don't do anything, it's actually better than doing something. But I would say I just want to break that bubble. I think Sam mentioned there
Uh-huh.
is a corporate bubble and there
Yep.
is
Yep.
this more idealistic design oriented bubble. I actually
Right.
I would imagine myself, for example, maybe Sam as well, in between. I'm
Mm.
not really like
Okay.
in this corporate environment, but
Yep.
I'm also not really in this new movement of new designers. I would say I'm in between. So I'm trying to see, the stories of both sides and see if we could learn something from being in between these two worlds. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
can I just add
that's
on? I can imagine two very prominent well, maybe not architects, but designers who really add their views, and there's Kevin Butler and Saxon.
Mm.
But
To
okay,
themselves,
but
among themselves, is it?
about themselves in public on Facebook. But yeah,
We will have another platform for specifically on this. This is very interesting.
but but hang on. But I was gonna ask in further on, right? Because like you say that you guys, I suppose that are quite beholden to your own personal realities for Sam and Kawa. Do you think that if you guys have the aura of anonymity, that would be quite helpful for you guys to talk about stuff that otherwise would be quite harmful? As you said that doing a podcast, something like that, there's a possibility of doing more harm than good. So if you guys were anonymous, you guys don't know what they are, maybe you guys talk through a voice filter or something like that. Perhaps that will work. What do you guys think?
V for vendetta. It's a must.
No, yeah, not like that, but I suppose that a
Yeah.
very guerrilla style kind of thing, writing under pen names, like something that is very akin to like the very early intellectual movement of Marxism, that kind of stuff. Yeah, what do you guys think?
Banksy of architecture world. Sorry.
Yeah,
No,
I think,
thanks.
yeah,
Yeah,
Banksy. Yeah.
yeah,
personally, I think anonymity is good in a sense that you get to voice out anything you want and it could scale up really fast. But I think it's more of an integrity for you to be shown as an individual highlighting these topics, because people want it to be related to, people want to know that you have integrity,
yep.
you're sincere to what you want to bring in terms of its change. So I think anonymity is good, but I think real change is in actually saying it as yourself.
I see. Okay, yeah, and I suppose that will bring more weight to it as well, because
Correct.
you're putting yourself out there. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
yeah,
I think it's better if you have a face, sort of like be accountable. And in a way, my approach is that if you have an immunity, for example, it will sort of when you yourself is not on the line, it is fairly easy to criticize other people's work. I took the
okay.
approach that, for example, I have I want to know something about the Malaysia Pavilion, so I just asked Sam. I would, if I would have a larger umbrella, I would just like go and ask FAA what's going on, like your Lenggong UNESCO Park proposal for that particular archaeological site. What, because the proposal is running around the internet right now, but unfortunately I didn't know the people there personally. And Kampung Baru master plan, for example, if you feel that is something wrong, you can just if you have that level of intimacy, which I think we should, because there's not much. I mean, professional architect is just like below 2,000. So you actually should know everyone in the industry. And for example, the latest is Quranic Park, which is earmarked to be 150 mil. I mean, if we are in a very transparent sort of industry, we should be able, hey, friend, what happened? What's going on? And eventually you will get stories that actually the design is there. I just, come in to endorse or just do the 3D, or I don't know, maybe something funny story like that, most likely. So because there's a lot of forces with creation of architecture. So you need to sort of like be a bit more, in a way, not transparent, but in a way a bit more open of letting our stories know. But again, this engagement, all these are covered by NDA, non-disclosure agreement. So sometimes the buck stops there. I've spoken to a lot of my consultants previously when we have a chat. Actually, consultants or architects are the first person to actually know about any scandals, because what are the most expensive thing that you can buy in this world? Architecture. I mean, you can buy iPhone 2,000, 5,000. If you want to embezzle, some large sum of money, you can only do it through architecture or buildings like, I'm not saying any mega development lah. I'm not saying we should, but yeah. So
quote P9 PSR.
Yeah, PSR and
But
all this. So you can see actually, as a person, we are the first line in a way of contact. These people have this much money. I want to song lap this much money. So can we like do something about this money? So in a way, we should know about it. But again, because of the close nature of the profession, everyone keep very close to their heart. We will never get to that, idealistic or perfect society in a way. But again, I always believe architecture, architects per se is not bad people. They are actually very honest, have some level of integrity, but due to the fact that of circumstances, as I mentioned, NDA, political ties and whatnot, it's very difficult to get answers for all this development.
I understand. But then because I suppose that would be quite applicable to you guys. But then now in this audience, right, there are three of us who aren't that weighted down by this kind of reality for now. There's Gary, there's Joey, there's Haziq. Do you guys think that they can be the ones who bear this burden of being the ones to speak about this kind of thing? Because they're the ones with the least to lose.
Go ahead.
Sorry, you can go.
I think we need to be a little bit more like engineers, because they are always everywhere. They are school vice chancellor or they are uni chancellor and whatnot. They are everywhere literally, because they have different. They in a way they master different interests. In a way, some goes to politics, some goes to administration, policy. But architects are so caught up in this world of creating architecture in a way that thinking that providing your service or devoting yourself in other things would actually not help doing greater architecture. But actually, it's not true. I mean, look at MBPP. The mayor is actually an architect. And a lot of this new, I think they have a recent town council with PAM Northern chapter, and the mayor outlined all these initiatives to actually surpass all these green goals or sustainable goals that they been set by themselves and UNESCO. So actually, when you have a person that used to physicalize numbers or used to physicalize dreams or criteria, actually it could be working better to other architects that are actually going to design the building. So I think we need to be a bit more encouraging in the school. If they, if someone can't draw well, doesn't mean that it cannot contribute to architecture. Maybe you can think of a better policy for architecture per se. And we can reduce all this sort of bureaucratic nonsense where architecture has been treated by marketers as product, by buyer as a sort of a commodity. So because at all that particular range of scope of work, there's no architects there. So that's why we have this problem.
I
You
just
guys,
sorry,
Gary?
Amos, you just now you asked like probably about the liability in a way. How about the young designers? Are they there to speak out things, right? But I mean,
because like, look, come on, Gary, you right now you have a platform. Right now, Joey has a platform, Haze has a platform, and you guys are not tied per se to them. Do you guys think that you guys can pick out what they perhaps are limited by and be the ones or the vanguard to showcase stuff that they might not have the opportunity or the responsibility to?
Not really though, because if let's say I come up with a topic that we can talk about, for example, the first episode of Miloais, we are talking about why not architecture, it's a topic that very harmful for some institute, if you talk in their face, they will think like, what the hell are you talking about, see? But in a certain way, it's not saying that we are free to be a certain willpower that we can do anything we want, because I do have a certain worry is that what if I said a certain things, and then the previous speaker will come to me and say, Gary, I don't like this episode, please take down from my episode from your platform because I don't like the content you say. It might be happen in the future, I don't know, but there is a certain worry that I have to keep in mind, in a way that I have to say things in in some beautiful package way. Yeah, but still you can keep up the truth in a certain direction, a trajectory.
Oh, is it, Gary? So that you're saying that right now you're admitting that whatever stuff that you're saying, you have to balance out what you really want to say and also what the host might also think that they want to say.
No, I think.
So you're saying that you're are you saying that right now that it is in a way edited to make it look flattering for the host?
No, but for the podcast, all is untrimmed. I can be honest with that. That's why it's very, very long. I never trim anything. But it's just that, being a young designer here, young designer here, you don't want to talk about something that might affect your future career. That's the thing. Because if you wanted to be so provocative, like some Mr. K, okay, he talk things so provocative, he might affect the university.
Kevin McLaw. For guys, you guys don't know, it's Kevin McLaw.
I'm just saying lah.
If I can
just
add on,
if
I can just add on, I think like going back to the the beginning of this conversation, why did we start this?
Yeah,
it's because it's for fun and we're just having fun and we and who has fun by putting out all this negativity? No one. I don't think
it doesn't have to be negativity.
Controversy.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Not negativity, like what controversial topic? Yeah, has it?
Yeah, so I think that because I think you're asking about responsibility and all that, and I think going back to kind of the the intention from the beginning, it's to have fun. Is you know what I mean? Like.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Joey.
Yeah, I was saying that I think the challenge is to actually balance between the formality, the responsibility with the casuality of like these kind of sharings. Because I agree with Gary. Something what we said is we have to be careful. We don't want people to call us out in the future. But then I also think that being to curate this kind of discourse at our age, so you have that sort of privilege to say things that might offend people, because in the future you can say, oh, that is Joey Junior, that she doesn't know anything yet, so right now Joey Senior, she knows already, something like that. So I think it's okay to discuss about controversial topic if given a chance. I think I would do it, but I don't think that every time you do controversial topic it has to be very chaotic. It can still be diplomatic.
Oh no, of course not. Yes.
And just to add on to that, like for me personally, I would love to be called out, and I think that we don't get called out enough, and I think that's also like what we try to do in Baca. Like, how do you call someone out in a nice way? How do you go someone in a nice way, like what Jerry said lah, not in a chaotic manner. If you disagree, like also what Kawa said, how do you approach that person and said like, why did that thing happen? Not in an attacking stance, but just an understanding stance.
Disagreement and argument is just another form of conversation. It's not a bad thing either.
Yeah.
Do you answer your question?
Yeah, maybe we can move on to the next one pretty quick on income stream. Maybe a very brief one.
No
Yeah,
money. How to have income?
Yeah, but
Nobody
you
listen.
see it's okay. This one. Okay, I got full disclosure. This one was added. This question is added on request of Gary. But you guys see this as a way of getting income? Just to turn things around a little bit.
Can I start answer, because it's been something that I think
Yeah. Go ahead.
R Plus has been trying to find ways to actually bring money in, because it needs to be seen as a money making entity, right?
How do you go?
Yeah. Well,
Yes,
can't
correct.
fault it. Yeah.
So we've been trying to justify online sharing as a way to say that it's a networking tool to make you seem as though that you are an expert in a certain space. So that the money is not exactly from that platform per se, but it would be seen as a tool in a larger network of other tools, to be seen as you're trying to get that space to be seen as an expert, so that people would hire you for your certain expertise. Of course, you have to be like Joe Rogan to have millions of views to actually get a stream or an income stream on that actual platform. But if you see it as a tool in between other tools to become a larger framework for an income source, that makes sense.
Agree with that.
I'm curious. Sorry, maybe a quick one.
What about you guys?
Yeah, I'm just curious about Kawa, because you have platform on YouTube and Spotify. Do you actually expect the views or listeners will somehow passively bring a little bit income? Maybe just a few cents. It doesn't matter, but at least it generates. It's still there, what you know? It's gonna be there until unless YouTube bankrupt, you know.
Yeah, I actually don't see how it could be possibly to be that, because as of now I have 85 subscribers. I think so far light years ahead of the minimum required to be a YouTube partner. But again, I would say, as I said in the beginning, it's better for me not to do it rather than do it. So it's actually it's just a means to actually stay productive, I would say. If it's not actually an income stream, but rather sort of an output. There is sort of like a time frame for architecture, right? It takes years, months, or years usually. So it's kind of a bit frustrating sometimes. So if you could get a video or a podcast done in one night, that there will be at least a small sense of achievement. I think that would be enough. I think it's all about building content in a way that you might want to reflect. Or I think what is the most important is actually trying to be a bit more approachable, because I've been told in real life, I myself not that friendly in a way. I don't know, maybe because I don't like strangers. So this approach of this sort of engagement try to break down those stigmas. Hopefully, I'm not so sure if it's successful or not, but hopefully it brings people a bit more understanding of who I am and what I like to talk about.
Actually, Gary, I would think that if you added the money making element into this, that's just one more shareholder that you're gonna have to respect, and that's gonna limit what you can say even further.
Yeah, because apparently there comes a guy, okay, I won't say who, but he willing to sponsor the platform. Then I because it happens very early, and then he say, I wanted to sponsor your channel. I can remain anonymous, but I say no, because it's quite early, and I don't feel like taking your money is a good way, because even though it's not very a big amount, but it's just that for me, the moment if I take the money, I will greed for more in a way that I'm creating content for money. I'm not creating content for myself or my platform or my listeners. So that's why I think at some point it influenced a little bit, but realistic speaking, if you wanted to be a full-time podcaster, how can it be done? You have to be part-time doing in architecture firm, lecturing or whatnot, or then doing some workshop, and then podcast, it will come as a lease, because COVID, we have nothing to do. That's why we comes at like a free thing, like for fun thing, But if you wanted to make it as a career, it's gonna be a tough challenge.
you guys have anything else? I mean, is there anyone who would like to share a bit more?
I think I really agree with what Sam said about R plus, but on a personal level, in the sense that it's not gonna be direct income into my pocket, but it's a definitely income for my network, for whatever I'm gonna do in the future. You know, everything you do today adds up in the future later on, in some way, shape, or form.
I think it benefits in like exposure lah. It's like, oh, maybe they know Haziq from Baca, and maybe I can invite him to be a moderator on Urban Forum or things like that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that doesn't have to come from a money-making source, right?
Yeah,
No,
not really.
yeah.
Just by doing it by doing it and freeing yourself from any kind of sponsorship or being beholden to any sort of financial element, I would expect that would make it quite a bit more liberating than if you were indeed beholden to such financial obligations.
I think maybe a quick one, because I think what Joey did is pretty brilliant in a way to welcome donation. If you really appreciate it, then you donate. I don't force you to pay. If you like it, then you pay lah. You donate lah. I will continue improve my technical side. You know, it's like Zoom, mic, headphones and stuff. It's all needs money.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I'm like the game that they pay money, so I upgrade my armor so I can play better.
Agreed.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
thank
right.
you.
Yeah. Actually, okay. If anything else, sorry, I want to ask, like, if is from just bringing it on to something that we discussed quite early on today. You guys said that a lot of it, for all of you guys, COVID seems to be quite a very major element in starting all your efforts, right? So do you think that if COVID wasn't around, this thing wouldn't have started, or perhaps wouldn't have become what it is today, or it would have taken something else completely different?
For concrete matters, definitely thanks to COVID, in the sense that if it's without COVID and without the working from home period, the entire sharing platform wouldn't have started. So I think boredom or like creativity really will push people to thinking something new. And it's just like how, for example, in the past you have colonization, and then I mean like you mentioned earlier in the beginning of the sharing, right? We said that everyone been talking about online learning and online teaching for a very long time, but it's not really enforcing. But right now it's like a colonization, there's like a wave of colonization by technology. You must use these tools to learn and to communicate. Then everyone will have to force to go to that direction, and then more creative platform like this will come out. So it's like the same in the past when other country colonize another country, and then you have cultural assimilation, then you have beautiful byproducts coming out. That kind of analogy, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I think for Bacha as well, I think it was the sense of wanting / needing a community, and none, like, really it wouldn't have taken off. It wouldn't have started, and it wouldn't have lasted this long, really. I'm not sure how long it would last after COVID, but we'll see. I think it's exciting. Like, that transition will also be quite exciting.
Yeah, it's always evolving. I mean, if one day if no longer this reading club, but it could be something else, because it's always evolving. The same thing for the podcast. So one day perhaps you'll be doing real-time talk show anymore, or virtual reality talk show. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And I always think back to that idea of the 1,000 true fans, because they will follow you whatever you do, kind of thing. So whatever this evolves into, it's exciting lah.
Yep.
Sam Akawa, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah,
I think for Kawa,
Sam.
please. No, it's right.
I think definitely COVID helped a lot in terms of freeing other people's time, to be honest, because after the whole thing started again, it's quite difficult to book people to be part of the show, because they are quite, and then they will postpone or even ultimately just cancel. So in a way, it helped the guests to be slightly more free, and trying to somehow see how does this video conferencing actually cut down the need for traveling. For example, in the beginning, I thought I want to have it physically in our office in Cyberjaya, in a way that we try to bring them in, have a whole hospitality thing going on before the talk and whatnot. But unfortunately, because of this, in a way, people are also keen because they don't have to travel. Yet
Yep.
all those people that we're not used to see every day, old friends that we last spoke 5 years ago, 2 years ago, able to come. So I would say the future is all about getting more knowledge or information, because I think the action that we took is based on the knowledge. Unfortunately, we don't have much knowledge. Then we took the optics as knowledge. For example, the optics of how Malaysia Pavilion has been. Because Sam is here, so I'm just gonna like go down to the first episode. It's been seen is that this few people these few people are working on the pavilion and nobody actually knows what's going on. So that is the optic. The optic is these young architects are also doing the same thing as the old ones, because the old ones are also like that. They just do the thing and just suddenly you see the Malaysia Pavilion already. So that is the optics. But the information that I got from Sam is actually make me want to do something. So after Sufian depart PAM Council as the non-graduate PAM member on Council, I've taken up that challenge myself. I've put up myself to be part of the PAM Council election. Unfortunately, I did not win the position. In my mind, I'm trying to think of who's gonna take on the pavilion after Sufian has left. So in a way, actually we have a meeting, Sufian and a few other young architects, talking about how does continuation of some of their efforts moving forward. So I say that particular action is, I've never considered myself as one of the, actively want to be contributing to PAM or one of the right-hand man of PAM or whatnot. But I'm thinking there is so much at stake. People have, Sufyan and the team, and of course Sam as well. I've been doing this for the past 1.5 years or something like that. So if the eventual task is given to someone else, I mean, I'm not saying that someone else is going to do a bad thing. I say I would rather, contribute in a way that hopefully can help the pavilion to be realized in sort of next year. But since it's out of hand now, that's the main goal right now. Getting more, a bit more real information of what's going on and try to take action based on the information that you get. Yeah.
True. I think
All right.
from our plus point of view, I mean, COVID has accelerated it. We definitely wanted to do a podcast for quite some time, but podcast accelerated it, and COVID accelerated it, and we weren't really tied down to the nitty-gritty of technicalities lah. We just went for it. Whereas I think before this we were waiting a long time for it to become perfect.
Yeah, I think sorry, just a short one. But I think everyone wanted to do. I want to write a book. I want to do a podcast. I want to do something else. Until COVID's come, hold the handbrake. Everyone just stop, and then I will do it now. So I think it's a very interesting phenomenon that we can see.
Yeah.
So perhaps we can move on to the final session.
Yeah, because following on to that, if this is because of COVID, what will it become after COVID? Do you guys see a longevity for this? I mean, surely you guys do, right? But how do you guys presume to see? How do you guys how would you guys expect or prepare yourselves for changes, if any, to your platforms once this COVID thing is over? Presumably, it actually ends. Hopefully, it does.
I mean, for R Plus, we're still doing it. I mean, even though we're back at the office, it's still continuing lah. So we're trying to make it. It's just harder to do it when you're working. That's the problem. So you have to deal with like projects and stuff. So in a way, the podcast becomes the least of your most attentive projects lah once you're in the office. But because we set it up to the boss that it's part of the program, so we need to run it lah. So I'm not sure about you guys, because you guys are doing it out of your own time and effort. So it would be different for what you guys experience.
Yeah, Gary, how will it be? What will XYZ become once COVID is over?
I'm gonna ask you then. But
I'm a
anyway,
shareholder.
but anyway, because I think a new potential is that I was so inspired in a way that because of podcast, and I realized that maybe it's another new career for me to practice, because traditional architecture practice we already see they are depending on consultation fee, but when COVID comes, everything just slow down and perhaps dies off, So I think the next step perhaps to I was very inspired by this Chinese YouTube channel called Yiao. So they did a lot of videos, interviews, or even like Arc Daily or Dizine. I believe that in Malaysia, we rarely see this kind of information or data or content, I would say. So I thought this could be another new way for us to look at it. At the same time, we still can do pavilions, do some design, architectural design, So I think at some point we should look at it in a way that architecture should practice in a much more multiple way, in a multidisciplinary way, instead of put all the eggs inside one basket. How about
what do
you,
guys
Joey?
think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Joey,
Yeah,
is there a plan for Concrete Matter to resume under season 4 or 3?
4.
4, right? Yeah.
I think at the moment, I think me and Haziq is the same. We don't have our full-time job. So I think like Kawa and Sam as well. So doing this sharing session has reduced its priority as compared to during when we are working from home. So right now, for Concrete Matter, I think I'm still looking at the framework. I mean, we don't have like any plans per se yet, but what am I seeing is actually as a bigger, I mean, I'm looking at the bigger picture. See if, because like all of us here right now talking, each of us has their own sharing platform. I'm actually seeing each of the sharing platform as a contribution, as a small piece to a bigger puzzle. You see, because we before COVID, maybe we don't have that much. But right now, if we have so many small individual voices, it's individual, highly independent, I mean, very unique platform. What if we all of us can conjure together and then form an online academy? So this is actually much more interesting ecosystem to look at rather than individual growth of each platform. You see, this is what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, that sounds quite cool. I mean, what do you guys think? Well, an online academy, perhaps like more
crash course for YouTubers.
Yeah, they're not
I mean,
YouTubers, but yeah.
See, we have YouTubes right now, and then we have podcasts, and we have but reading clubs. I mean, we have this online social gathering, knowledge sharing, thing. This information, in my personal opinion, is much more valuable than the textbooks or lectures that you have in schools. You see, and then these are free. Some more, you get the first-hand insight. You get the first-hand information from the industry itself, rather than going through all these gruesome 3-4 years and then to realize that this is something that you don't want to do. Right.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Looking forward for the growth of this ecosystem, though.
No, I think it's excellent to be able to converge at one point. Yeah, I think it'll be good.
All right, then that's like, I suppose that perhaps years from now, once like this platform has become, or this ecosystem has become a mature thing, we would look back fondly at tonight at 9:40 p.m. 1st of November 2020 as perhaps the start of something new. I don't know.
Yeah,
but let's keep a promise of 5 years. Maybe after 5 years, we'll look back into this podcast.
Say what have you promised?
Make it annually.
Okay. Okay, I think that we are about to reach the end of this already. Do you guys have any final words to say about what you guys wish to convey through our platform, or some parting thoughts as to what you believe like the future of your endeavors will become?
Sorry. I just wanted to say thank you to all the guests and also our friends joining this Zoom. I think it's very beneficial for everyone. I think everyone operating their own platform, but this platform consists of a lot of platforms. I think so. Thanks a lot for joining. And I think we need more context instead of content, because content everyone can create, right? I mean, Kawa can create his own content. I can create my own content. Everyone can create our own content, but by speaking of context, it's about the unity or union of all of us into one umbrella, and talks about how to advocate a better architectural education or communication. So that's the only thing I wish to say. Thanks a lot for joining.
Thanks for organizing.
Thank you,
All
Gary.
right.
you.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Joey, do you have anything to say?
Nope.
Any parting thoughts?
I think it's great. Keep doing what you're doing, and then thank you for supporting us, and thank you for having us. Yay, Malaysia! 5.0,
Yay.
6.0.
Yay, Sam, what do you think?
I think I want to congratulate you guys, especially since you guys are grassroots based initiative. So I think I really want to thank you guys for starting the things that you do, because yeah,
Oh my god.
because I think as a student, when I was studying, I've always wanted to be in this type of environment, but it's just that I think the time and come where the media is appropriate, where the time is appropriate, that this thing is accelerating. So I think it's quite nice.
I'm looking forward to what Kawa's gonna say, because he's like the senior in this case. He's the professional architect, right?
Yeah.
Let's hear it. Kawa, your platform.
I think this is how it should be. I mean, this is very early. Somewhere, somehow, someone down the line will found a way that to, as you mentioned just now, to influence people, to monetize, to create a better environment for architecture and elevate the taste palette of architecture, in the public. There will be a generation doing that, but I think what we are doing now, just laying down the clay road to Rome or something, just a very basic avenues. But I believe what we're trying to do is actually ultimately try to express ourselves, because I think the problem in Malaysia is that there's too much reliance on authority. I mean, not only us, but other things like filmmakers. They need like all these grants to do film. If not, they don't have any encouragement to do one. The problem is that if you look at countries like Indonesia, right, for example, they have all these independent initiative, just like what we do now, like everywhere. Even their because I understand a lot of people are complaining about PAM, why PAM not doing this and that, but I already explained all this thing in length to Joanne why. The ultimate reason is that PAM is just a small organization, to be honest. They don't even have like representative everywhere. Same like Indonesia. Indonesia is even a bigger country. So what they do is that they do their own independent thing. Everyone are doing it, and then they just like send a report or send like a small paragraph to the AIA to their representative, just saying, "Oh, we are doing this." So they put up the talk, they put out the webinar. That's all. They just become a mediator instead of enabling people. They're just a mediator. That's the route, the path that we should go forward. Same goes to the Philippines. Since I've been in Acacia, I've been mixing around with these other 21 country members, young architects. They are sharing their experience with us in Thailand and whatnot. They said we are very privileged in a way that we still have a scale of fee, in a way that we still have this sort of autonomy of architecture. Like PAM can control the narrative, but in other countries they are fairly liberated, which I think what we should do and stop be so reliant. I think during the Taufik and Sufyan session, it's very clear that this creatives in a way PAM cannot do anything, to be honest. PAM cannot contribute or encourage. They are just there to navigate through the waves. You have to make the exploration. You have to charter new map, new region. That's what we should do. So that's why, in a small way, even though actually I'm in no position to do this, but I'm just trying to do my small effort to actually move somewhere at least. So appreciate everyone's initiative, and we hope that one day this will lead to a greater and better architecture.
Thank you,
in
Kawa,
Malaysia.
for speaking
Yeah.
up. Thank you, Kawa.
Yeah.
I think it's very encouraging.
Haziq, what's your thoughts?
I definitely want to join in everyone and say thanks to everyone here who's like doing their own initiatives, and I also want to say thanks to whoever is listening to this on onto this podcast, and you're part of this. You're a huge part of this. None of this, we can't do any of this if you're not listening, if you're not engaging.
Right.
And I really like this the spirit of like gotong royong going online. It's amazing. And just there's a huge amount of optimism in the air, which is really nice, and we all need it, especially in Malaysia. So keep it up. So whoever's listening to this, like, even if you're not, if you feel like you want to join any of us, I think definitely
Reach
do
out
it.
to us.
Yeah, reach out to us. I think we're all super friendly. If if you want to start something on your own as well, like, just go for it. Really, now's the time.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Now's the time.
So maybe I can spare like 3 to 5 minutes to, like Haziq said, audience are actually big part of our platform. Without audience, we are
It
just
is.
doing like syok sendiri, So I'm not sure, our friends here, our audience here, if you guys have any one last question or even any comment would you like to make to our speakers here? No. So yeah, I think everyone is pretty optimistic about what everyone's doing.
Clarissa,
and
go on, Clarissa.
Yeah, Clarissa.
Come
Yeah.
on.
I think Clarissa's going to have something.
Hello. I was just going to bring up the question that Queenie and I kind of elaborated further up, where we were asking about how you guys chose the medium of podcasting, which is obviously an oral kind of experience versus our practice and or our discipline, which is obviously an ocular centric one. So what kind of maybe what kind of motivations, or is it like this idea of articulating it more clearly, like what we do, or well, of course, other than concrete matter, because it's also very, you can still see the slides.
I think
It's different form of learning. So some people prefer hearing more, some people prefer visuals. Yeah, I don't really get it.
as in, why is it more text-based for such a visual kind of feel?
Well, I suppose Joey isn't applicable.
Oh no, I'm
Yeah, I
cancelled.
guess.
Bye.
No.
You guys go ahead and discuss. Yes.
I mean, for Bacha, it's definitely that. It's definitely providing an alternative, and learning how to kind of visualize through words, because I still think text and words are extremely visual. It's just how do you kind of navigate it, and I think it's really important. So I kind of get what you're saying, but I feel like a lot of people out there are already doing the visual thing. I'm not great at it. I'm good at what I do, so let's focus on that.
I think, sorry, coming back to a podcast, I think there's a certain challenge because you need to plug into, and then you listen to it, but you might be doing something, but I think video is much more visual and audio influence, or much more engaging. So that's why I think perhaps this whole podcast, I will post it out on YouTube, everyone can watch it, instead of listen to podcast. It's much more like a cafe vibe, it's like when you're eating croissant, you listen to podcasts, but when you watch a YouTube, it's more like, oh, I'm serious, I'm looking at someone with hand gesture, facial expressions, and look at their words their choice of words. So I think perhaps that's another steps, apart from doing podcasts. Okay.
I think.
All right.
sorry,
I think. Sam or Cora, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, for me, I just want to cut down one aspect of the experience. So with minus the visual is in a way better to me. I always during when I do work, I always listen in cycle of Dave Chappelle's comedy set. What I have seen it like 10 or 15 times. But the idea of even listening it in repeat, you sort of like paint a new visual out of that audio. Of course, the video is playing, but I'm not, I'm focusing on the screen where I do actually do work. So, it gives you the opportunity for the listeners to actually paint something out of that words that is spoken or verbally. So I think it's a good avenue, especially when you have like this pause in your life. For example, like driving for me is a pause. Your life stops, and then you just your life starts again when you reach your destination. That's when most of the time I listen to podcasts. So I think there is a place, definitely. That is why I do both. I put it on YouTube and also Spotify. I think the idea is to at least give some room for visualization from on the listeners' own mind. Yeah.
Sam, do
I
you have
think-
anything to say?
Yeah, just to answer Clarissa's question, I think for R Plus, podcast is another way of operating as a research platform for archiving, articulating the knowledge, and also as a form of as a medium for research lah. So it just makes sense for us to go into that direction as R Plus. I'm not sure if a normal practice would actually do it as part of their operations, but as a unit of GDP, it makes sense for us in the way we operate.
I see.
Yeah.
All right.
Just adding
okay.
on a final thought to it is, I think this idea of like communicating, like architects, that's what we do, right? Like we communicate, and to kind of challenge yourself to communicate in ways that you are not exactly trained to specifically. So you're trained to sketch, you're trained to draw and communicate, and via that kind of platform. But how do you do the same thing with words? We're not great communicator with words. So to constantly practice that is quite nice, I think.
Like a Toastmaster session while you driving. Toastmaster session.
I mean, if anything, like just saying on my own experience, back then I was working as an architect, as part one. The visual sense is my work, the audio sense are podcasts. So they complement each other. That's why I input. Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, I think that pretty much wraps up tonight's session. Thank you so much, guys, for participating.
Thank you.
I think it's really awesome to see so many content creators. Wow, calling you guys content creators now.
Content creators,
yeah. It was fun, It's like the potential here is just like limitless, and then there's quite a good vibe tonight. But once again, I think we had to draw it to a close. Thank you so much, guys,
Thank
for
you,
coming.
guys.
Yeah, thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
We look forward. Yeah, we really look forward to what's next.
Yeah, I think
Alright.
this is not the end. Of course, this is not the end. We're gonna organize more, and then feel free to welcome and join us. And it's not wrong. We are all content creator. I mean, architects are content creator. We are design form and spaces content creator. So thanks a lot for joining. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye. Take care.
Okay.